Hey, hi, everybody. It is Monday, April 28th, 2025. Um, I'm David Lotz. Joining me, as always, is Bobby Jackson. How's it going, Bobby?
It's going good. Missed you last week, so got a lot to make up for.
Yeah. When was the last time so we didn't do a show last week
Right.
at
It was
all?
just a couple weeks. No, no.
Yeah, that's right. I had to. It's crazy how busy you get. You can't even remember this
Yeah,
stuff.
because last one we did was when it was all four of us together and we did Sinners Review.
Yes, I remember that now. Uh, so yeah, we are here to chat about The Last of Us, episodes 2 and 3, since we missed last week.
Yeah,
And
we figured last week nothing big happened, so we just didn't feel like doing a show. So,
nah, we're like, you know what? That was a minor episode. We're gonna jump
yeah.
forward and just do two at once.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally our train of thought. Yeah, we are streaming this live on Twitch, but if you're watching us in the future on YouTube, welcome as well. But we stream these episodes on our Twitch channel at Flickr_effect, so look out for those. But before we get to The Last of Us, there is another little show that has come back for season 2 as well, and I think it's worth at least talking about, at least briefly, and that is Andor. Um, we're not going to talk spoilers, I don't think, for this. We're just going to share our quick thoughts so far. For those of you watching Andor, you're probably aware of the unique release schedule for this season. They're releasing 3 episodes at a time every week. So we get a total of 12 episodes, but only in 4 weeks. It's like a nice, good chunk of a season, but in a small amount of time. Each week of episodes is going to cover,
A year.
they're going to be 1 year apart, each set of 3 episodes. So this first set of 3 episodes was from 4 BBY. But anyway, no spoilers. Hi, Ice Coffee. Welcome, welcome. What did you think of the first 3 episodes, Bobby?
You know, um, it's funny. Before I talk about what I thought of the first 3 episodes, I'll just say that because, like you said, they released 3 episodes a night on, and I believe it's Tuesday nights, and the next 3 will come tomorrow. So I wasn't for sure, based on me being on the West Coast, even though it's an earlier time, it was 6 o'clock for me, that I'd be able to watch all 3 episodes at once. I think I actually ended up watching 2.5 episodes because I had some stuff going on before I could get down and settled into watching the whole thing. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to be able to watch all this at one time. I'll watch as much as I can and then finish it off tomorrow. And that's pretty much how it went. So I was able to kind of get a continuous flow. And I'm glad I did get it that way because as much as there's been so much glowing reaction to this season in terms of the reviews that I've seen, and I don't know what you've seen yet, David, and I guess we'll discuss that as well. But I thought the first 2 episodes were pretty slow. I was not feeling it, to be honest. As much as I loved the first season, those first 2 episodes back were I just felt like, especially that second episode, there was a lot of time wasted on a specific planet with Andor that he was at with some stuff that was going on there. I just felt like it was kind of, I wouldn't say pointless, but I thought it could have gone a lot shorter, that they didn't have to spend an episode and a half with that whole thing because the people that he had to interact with a lot of the time, I couldn't, they were so bad to me. Just from the standpoint of the characters, it just didn't feel. I don't know. I just didn't work for me. So I was having a hard time with that third episode. That's when it started to really get into the move and the mode that I was waiting for, and where from there, um, I was all on board. I will say though, the first episode, the first 10-15 minutes I was really digging, just because there was this scene with a particular ship, that I'll say, since we're not really doing spoilers, that I found visually it looked awesome, just from the way it was filmed, and the way the aesthetic of everything looked, and it felt good being back in this world with Andor, and just how well it's all shot. It just looked really convincing, this ship and everything that was going on with it. And so that I dug. It was just once he was on this specific planet, that's where it kind of went downhill, and then it's intercut with some of the other characters from this show from last season as well as this season, that I was kind of like, okay, we're kind of getting back into the gear with these things and these characters. But again, I felt like even those other storylines were a little bit slow to start for me, but really kind of gelled together in that third episode. So I wouldn't say I was it's off to a great hitting hard start for me, but I know it'll pick up. So I'm not too worried about these first three, and I'm glad that we're getting ready to move into the next three.
Um, I get what you're saying, but I don't think it bothered me as much as the negatives that you're pointing out did not bother me as much as they seem to have bothered you. Um, Iced Coffee, you mentioned, I really wish they had provided a recap. There's too much to remember. It was funny. I was going to ask you that, Bobby, like before the first episode. I'm like, did I miss something? There was absolutely no previous like season recap whatsoever
No.
before that first episode, which kind of surprised me, because then as the subsequent episodes aired, 2 and 3, or I watched them, I mean, they were like, okay, and they were kind of a previously on before those two. But by the way, Iced Coffee, there's a number of recaps out there on YouTube, but speaking of that, since you bring it up, there's an official recap on YouTube from the official like Star Wars YouTube account that I was actually really impressed by. Like, not only was it a good recap for season 1, but kind of the latter part of that recap is just a good kind of montage with some, I forget what the character voiceover is that's over the end of it. That's just really well done. And I recommend that as a watch. But anyway, I enjoyed the first 3 episodes just fine. I get what you're saying in regards. I mean, it's hard to talk about it when we're not talking spoilers. But in regards to where Andor ends up for a little while, and I do get what the show is trying to do with that and what it's trying to say in regards to Rebels. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm with you, but again, I guess it just didn't bother me as much maybe as it bothered you. Overall, I enjoyed the first 3 episodes pretty well. Like, I mean, they're not my favorite Andor episodes, but from everything I've seen, it seems like this is the weakest of the 4 sets of episodes that we're getting. And with that, hearing that, I'm like, well, that's good, because I enjoyed it. And if it just gets better from here, I'm good with that. So,
Yeah, like I said, it's not like I hated it, but it just wasn't as good a comeback as I was hoping for. Where I think if you compare it to just The Last of Us, to me, it felt like that coming back with just that first episode, it felt like it was laying the groundwork, which is what these 3 were doing. But at the same time, I felt like with these 3, there felt like some things that were, I won't say not necessary, but I felt like maybe went on too long. Whereas with the first episode of the Last of Us, I felt like it did a good job of reestablishing characters, introducing new characters, and just really kind of getting you settled back in a good way, in a tight way, I guess.
right.
But it was only an hour compared to 3. What it wasn't really 3 hours, but however long the 3 episodes were for Andor. So not mad at it, but it wasn't as exciting of a comeback as I was hoping for, though.
Gotcha. Well, either way, I think we're in for a treat for the rest of the season. At least it seems that way to me.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to the rest of it. So, yeah, there's not much to say without talking spoilers. So I figured it was at least worth talking about for a little bit. You know, with our current streaming and recording schedule, uh, we're a little late in the game of talking about these first 3 episodes. Like you mentioned, the next 3 are dropping tomorrow night. By if you're watching this on YouTube, by the time you're watching this, I'm sure those 3 episodes are out.
Yeah.
So um, we'll talk about those in the future as well.
I was about to say, this isn't anything specific to anything Andor, but it's like a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. But yeah, I didn't actually see Ice Coffee's comments, so I didn't know if you had brought those up on the screen this time around.
Oh, yeah. With us not gaming and chatting right now, I don't have. I mean, the
Ah,
chat, if you're watching on Twitch, obviously you can see the chat, but it's just not on screen.
got it. Okay, no worries. Well, hi, Ice Coffee.
Hi, Scott. Um, but yeah, let's get to, I guess, the meat of our conversation this week, and that is The Last of Us. We're going to be talking about spoilers for these last 2 episodes again, since we missed last week. Um, yeah, like you said, it was a minor episode, episode 2.
Yeah, hardly anything happened in that one,
Hardly
so
anything
this
happened.
should be pretty quick to talk about that episode.
Yeah, we'll be done in 10
uh,
minutes.
okay, so let's get into it then. With that second episode, I obviously I haven't talked about it here, so just to fill anyone in, my experience with that second game is that I knew the big reveal there with Joel just because when that game it came out, I remember hearing a lot of controversy about how people were perceiving it. Excuse me. And so I looked into what all the fuss was about because I didn't play the first game and I hadn't played the second game, but I understood the cultural relevance of the games and how good they were. I hadn't been playing any gaming systems at that point, not even Xbox. Or typically, I had an Xbox, but I played PlayStation games, and I hadn't played that one. And so I just would keep up with certain storylines based on however exciting a game is, sort of like God of War. I know some stuff about it, but not a lot of stuff about it. So I had heard this one because it was such a big thing and very controversial. So I was like, okay, the series comes out. I already know where we're going with it. That second episode happens. I wasn't for sure until certain things started happening within the episode that this was going to be the episode. And a lot of people were debating that fact, whether it was going to be episode 2, whether it was going to be somewhere later on in the season, because of the fact that they were saying already ahead of time that they were breaking up this season for the game. It would be 2 seasons for this one second game. So I was like, okay, well, it could technically take place next season, I guess. Or yeah, because that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong, David. It's not that they're breaking up season 2 into 2 parts. It's this will be season 2 and then season 3 will be, I guess, maybe the second part of that second game. But I fully thought like, okay, it could be possible that they draw it out and then they don't show that until the next season. But there'd been a lot of people thinking, okay, they're going to do it this second episode. So as I'm watching it and certain things are starting to happen, I'm like, yeah, that's how the game goes. So here we go. And that really doesn't lessen the fact of knowing that it's coming, seeing it happen, especially when it's live action, especially when it's Pedro Pascal and you've been following this guy and this character for all this time. It really hits you where it's supposed to, and you feel very angry as everything is unfolding. You're right there with Ellie. So to me, it was just a fantastic second episode. That and the fact that, from what I understand, one of the differences between the show and the game is that they didn't have that whole element with the town being overrun by the cordyceps, and so that was like specific to the show, which I thought was a great idea because it splits your attention between these two storylines that are happening at the same time. And you're just as invested as when they're cutting from one thing to the other. You're anxious to see what's happening in Joel, but you're also anxious to see what's happening back at the town with everything that's going on there. So it just does a fantastic job of giving you more and fleshing out these characters and the town more and these people. So the second episode was just freaking fantastic. But me knowing it, I thought, okay, well, it lessened the fact that what's going to happen, and it doesn't. You really feel in that moment, and you're just kind of super hit by it. And for me, I think the moment that hit the hardest, honestly, more so than the actual death part, was just when they were going back to town and you see his body being dragged behind with the horses in the body bag, and it was just like, oh, that was sad. It was super sad. And you have the music being played by, I want to say that was Ashley Johnson, the actress that plays the character
Yeah, that's my
in the
understanding.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I still remember her from Growing Pains, which dates me, but it's so funny. But yeah, so I just thought it was fantastic. But while I am curious as to what you thought of the episode, I am very, very, very curious as to what Michelle thought of the episode, because from my understanding, you had an inkling of something that was going to happen there, but I don't know that she had, and if she had been able to keep herself detached from any of the ideas of what's about to come.
You know, it's funny we haven't discussed that. I don't even know if she knew that was coming or not. I have no idea.
Oh,
As for me, yeah, so I think I've mentioned here and there on previous episodes that when pointing out that I've never played these games, I don't know where this story's going. I have also mentioned that I think there was one spoiler about the second game, Last of Us Part 2, that I was aware of, but I wasn't sure. And yeah, this was it. With absolutely no detail. With no detail of how it was happening or anything. And that was, now that we're talking spoilers and now that it's happened, I think it was during the filming of the second season. I think I came across a random TikTok or something on social media where somebody was with, and to be fair, this person didn't explicitly say it either, but they were like, it was something along the lines of like, I wonder why Pedro Pascal apparently didn't have to be on set for very much of the season. Like, and with this kind of wink and a nod. And that's all it took. And I was like, are you effing kidding me? like, okay. And I mean, it was very, without, even though the person didn't say it, it was super clear what they meant.
sure.
And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. And then as time has gone on, I've seen a lot of other chatter from people online that, again, people weren't really explicitly saying it, but it was kind of confirming what I'm, thought I had heard. And so this episode comes around, and the funny thing is like we watched the episode 1 right when it aired, because this show is another appointment television. I watch it when it airs. But episode 2, yeah. So we did our Sinners episode that night. I think it was, right? And
yeah, it was Sunday.
We recorded, and it was like, okay, we even said when we were streaming, hey, we got to go. Last of Us is starting. But after we were done, I think we were both like, you know what? I don't think I could watch Last of Us right now. We'll watch it tomorrow night. Of all the episodes to not watch live. And the next morning rolls around. And again, I go on social media at some point in the morning, and it wasn't like it was immediately spoiled for me, but it became super clear very quickly that I'm like, oh, wow, that was the episode 2. And I was like, all right, we got to watch it tonight. I'm like, yeah, it's got to happen. And yeah, that was the episode. I'm like, oh, okay, well, oh, well. Because the same thing, I mean, again, since I knew nothing about when this was going to happen like I knew nothing about when it happens in the game or how it happens. And kind of like you said, knowing that it seems that this second game is being at least spread across 2 seasons, I was like, well, it's Pedro Pascal and the pair is such a big deal to this show. Maybe they'll kind of stretch it out and it won't happen until mid-season or late into the season. I didn't think they were going to wait till the next season. I was pretty confident it was going to be this season, but no, man, I was not expecting the second episode. Again, not knowing anything about it. But it was still powerful to watch, even though I was aware of it, kinda. It was still a great episode. I mean, you mentioned one difference between this and the game being that the whole cordyceps kind of attacking the town wasn't really in the game. It's also my understanding that Abby's motivation for what she does is not aware to you as a game player at this point.
Yeah.
But again, I'm saying that as someone who's never played it. This is just what I hear. And I'm sure a lot of you watching have played it and are aware of that. But no, even though it was kind of spoiled for me, it was still a great episode. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's a bummer in a way. Like I've seen some comparisons of like this and like, you know, Game of Thrones and the Red Wedding and how people kept that kind of secret for the TV fans. And I'm like, yes, but I would argue that, well, I guess I would argue a couple things. Like, I think Game of Thrones fans did a better job of keeping that secret than Last of Us fans, but it's also a very different world. Like,
yes,
the internet is very different than it was back when the Red Wedding episode aired.
100%.
I think a lot more people have played The Last of Us than people that had read Game of Thrones at that point. So I think there's a lot of factors. So in a way, I don't blame Last of Us fans for kind of spoiling it, even though I'm also kind of frustrated at them. But because I've seen some people being like, oh man, they did such a good job of keeping it from us. I'm like, did they though? I don't know. Like, it seemed like it was kind of obvious. I think they could have done a better job, but it's cool. No, I have no ill will, kinda. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel like, based on the controversy, how are you feeling, I guess, maybe since you kind of already had an idea of where it was going, how do you feel about the fact that they removed that main character from the show now, unless they do flashbacks or something? But as far as his story going forward anymore beyond the point of where it's gone, is that something you're kind of thinking that that was a bad move? Do you, or are you on the side of the fence where you think this like just makes it that much better as a story that he's gone at this point? Where do you feel about that? Because I think that was one of the biggest controversies of the game in general, is that it happens pretty early in the game as well. And so, like you said, at some point, I believe you're playing as this character of Abby, and then this happens, and you're just like taken completely off guard. And so, as a gamer, you spent this whole time playing as this main character, and now this character is no longer around. And so, quite a few people were furious about the fact that that's what happened, and they didn't like the game, have a hatred for the game. And yet there are people out there who think it's the best story a video game has ever told. And if I'm not mistaken, and someone again can correct this if I'm wrong, is that it had won Game of the Year that year it came out. So it's clearly one of those things where it's divisive. But I'm I'm wondering how it hit you, knowing now that we don't have that character, even though you already kind of had this inclination that this character was going to not last throughout the entire run of the show.
I'm good with it. In terms of like the show and my enjoyment of the show, I mean, of course I love Joel and didn't want to see him go. But I'm also good with it from a storytelling perspective, and I think it works. I think it's a very bold move that they did it so quickly. Um, I think it will be interesting to see like the numbers from HBO with this
Mm,
show of like how many people just drop off of this show after like he's gone, and people that are just like, hey, I'm tuning into this show because I like this duo, like they're the core of the show and they're why I watch the show, and now one of them's gone, like why am I watching this now? And
hmm.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people, unfortunately a lot of people that will go, no, this isn't what I signed up for, I'm out, I'm just going to enjoy what saw so far and I'm not going to watch any more of this. Like I think it's a
Yeah.
distinct possibility. But hey,
It,
that's what the game chose. That's the story the game chose to tell, and they're adapting the game. It seems pretty closely, and I'm I'm good with it. I mean, as someone again talking about Game of Thrones, we lived through the Game of Thrones years, and now I guess I'm numb to it. It's like it's fine. Like I'm still invested and interested in this story, even though this main character is gone. As bummed as I am about that, I still want to see where this goes.
to me, it reminds me of like when Glenn died on The Walking Dead. And I don't know how much of The Walking Dead you watched, and if it was something that was like, if you got to that far into the show, if you did watch it, but a lot of people were super affected by them killing off Glenn. And he wasn't even a main character. Or he wasn't the main character. He was one of the main characters in that group that had been there since episode one, or at least episode two at the very latest. And so it was like them killing him off was just the moment in time where they were just like, okay, I'm done with this show. I can't keep going any further at this point. Now you've killed the last thing that I feel really good about with this show, and now it's just dread and more dread after that. So now I'm checking out. And so a lot of people took took that time and to say like, now I can't really keep following. Where I think the this show has the advantage is that it's it's still early on in the show's run, whereas when it happened with Glenn, it was like, I don't know, season 6, 7, somewhere around there. So it was probably late in this show's run in the sense that the show had been on for a while, so people could have been at that point able to just say, "All right, I'm gonna check out. I've seen enough of this show, and I'm good." The Last of Us is only in season 2, so then it's not as tired and worn out as a lot of people were feeling about the Walking Dead up to that point when Negan came in with his bat. So I get it, and I can understand why some people would be like, okay, this was why I was here. I was watching for this character. Now I can't continue anymore. And some people will say that, but sometimes you just need a little distance away from it before you feel good about coming back to it again. So I'm sure that there are some people who kind of rage quit the show after last week, but they may come back again just to be able to see what's going on with the story and see if Ellie is able to get her revenge.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean I've got nothing else on that. I'm enjoying it and I'm good with it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess we should move into the latest episode that just happened last night, which was dealing with the aftermath of what happened to Joel, and what is, from what I understand, again, have not played this game, but this was not, this was a wholly specific thing created for the show, that there is not really a time to heal or a time to kind of get into a conversation as to what to do next in regards to, do we go after the people that killed Joel. This was something specifically created for the show, which I really appreciate that they did that. I could see how a lot of people might be like, oh, we're back to another episode where it's not really anything going on. But I think you kind of need that, especially after an episode like we had last week. You get a moment to kind of breathe, to mourn this character, and to be like, all right, let's set our attention now to what happens next. And you get that all within this episode. You get to see characters dealing with Joel's death in their own way. Obviously, you get to see Ellie and how it affected her, and how she's traumatized by witnessing his death. And
Hmm.
so you get to see all these elements of what will be something that is always going to stick with her and carry her through this journey to push her forward into where she's able to try and get her revenge. So I really thought they did a good job of just trying to get everything kind of like reset the table for where we're headed, but as well as giving us a moment to kind of mourn over this character that we had been following and loved for this season and the couple episodes, or the one episode last week. So I don't know. I thought it was good episode to where for me the first episode of the season was just kind of really just getting us reestablished and everything. This episode felt like it was something that gives you a time to kind of get your balance and your bearings again. It's like you get hit over the head with something and you're just delusional, and right, you just don't know which way is up after last week's episode for a lot of people who did not see it coming. So you can't, I don't think, immediately just jump into the next big action thing. You just kind of have like, give me a second, let me get my bearings again, and then let's move forward. And I think that's what this episode did in such a smart way, especially by giving the town a chance to kind of speak up and say what they think. Because if they do go after these people, and they're not just going after them willy-nilly, they got their best people going, which leaves the town vulnerable. So if they're gone, so it makes sense that there's going to be people who say, no, we shouldn't be on revenge right now, we should be looking to continue to build our town back up, as opposed to going to look out for people. Which kind of honestly, if I was on that council, as mad as I would have been about Joel, I would have sided with staying with the town. Not necessarily because I wouldn't want to get revenge, but more because, well, at least I don't know if it was told at that point, but enough people must know that, yeah, actually it was told. They know that they're in Seattle. So Seattle's not going anywhere. I mean, yeah, it's been 3 months. What's 1 or 2 more months in terms of that? So I would have been okay with making sure the town is fortified again before going back out. And those people will probably still be there if they're in a good location. Just like that town, the people aren't going to leave that town for any no good reason. They're going to still be there. So I'm sure the people, the wolves, will still be in Seattle. So I would have said, not now, let's revisit it in 2 months or whatever. So I don't know, but that's just me. And I get that obviously this is Ellie we're talking about. She's not going to listen to a good amount of reason. She's just
Right.
fueled by her emotions, and she's going to do what she's going to do.
Right. Um, yeah, part of me was kind of dreading watching the next episode. I'm like, is it going to just be like a little too slow after such a
Hmm.
big episode like episode 2? And it wasn't. It was, but in a good way. It was a solid episode. There was one point where I was like, oh, is the episode already over? But then there was still more to it. Um, but overall, I enjoyed it. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those episodes, like you said, after such a big event like episode 2. It's like you still have to process so much, and this episode is kind of giving everybody, the viewers, a chance to do that. But there's also not a lot to like really, I guess, I feel like get into with it, if that makes sense.
Not a ton, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I guess there's ideas that are being seeded there that we can kind of explore a little bit,
Right.
in the sense that I don't know. Again, only thing I knew within this season and what would possibly happen was about Joel's death. So I don't know anything else. And at one point, we encounter, if I'm not mistaken, close to the beginning of the episode or somewhere around there, these people with scars on their faces that are walking this path. and you see one of these guys, and he's talking to a young girl, and he's talking to her. I don't know if it's his daughter or not, but he's talking to her
Seems like his
about,
daughter.
yeah, about the prophet and
Right.
how prophet's no longer with us, but we still carry the message and whatnot. And so I'm curious, what was your impression of that group? Later, we see that they get slaughtered. We don't really see by who. Um, Ellie and Dina, Dina, I think is her name, that they assume that it's probably the wolves. Uh, but regardless of that, what did you think of this group? This I don't know who they are, but they have a certain look. They all have seem to have these scars. They all seem to wear these like same kind of gear or whatever. So,
Mm.
what were your impressions of them?
They just cause you to ask a lot of questions, and we don't really have any answers yet, really. I mean, I would
Well,
assume that this show is going to go more into whoever, first of all, whoever the group themselves are. Like, yeah, like you said, they all have these like scars, like along their
mhm,
cheek, like from their mouth that kind of curve up. All the men's heads were all shaved. Um, they all had these kind of logo, whatever that logo was, on their backs or on their clothes.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I just found myself going, who are these people? And then of course hey, and then they're all slaughtered, and of course then you're asking, well, who did this? And it does seem like they assume it's the wolves, but I find myself going, I don't know about that. But I mean, I don't know. I have no idea.
Let me ask you this: Do you, from the limited amount that we got with these characters, do you feel that they are potential allies or potential enemies?
The people that were slaughtered,
Yeah.
uh, potential allies. They
Okay,
seemed like a
that's interesting.
peaceful. They seemed like a peaceful group of people, other than that they carry hammers.
Well, see,
I don't know.
it's so funny that you read it that way because my initial impression was they are not to be trusted, that
Mm,
they seem very bad. And the only reason, okay, this might be a bad reason for me to think this, but who goes around purposefully scarring your face? I mean, even the little girl she had like fresh
scars on her
little
face. Yeah.
scars. And it's like, that's very cultish. And typically speaking, those don't turn out to be the nicest of people. Um, so that was the impression I was getting from them, is that these were not going to be good people, but but I think the show does such a good job of this, not just with this group of people that we encounter, but in general, of showing that not just because you're bad doesn't mean you're evil, if that makes sense. And that these people could turn out to be very bad, but they care for each other in their own way or whatever it is. And you can see that there's kindness there that the father was showing towards the daughter. So it's like trying to show that there's sides to all people, whether they're and it just depends on which perspective and which side of them you're on. It's sort of like you're either with us or against us kind of thing. And so I could see in some situation to where maybe they are um, a threat, but they could be a threat that only if they're bothered, or they could be a threat in that they don't have things, and so they will take things if they come across anyone that has something that they want.
Mm.
So they said that it sounded like he said, or I could be misremembering. I only watched the episode once, but I thought maybe he said something about them needing the hammers just for protection or something like that. But um, yeah, I just got the sense that that's just their weapon of choice, because I don't think any of them had guns, if I recall. But Yeah, I didn't get a good feeling from them, to be honest.
I mean, I get that. I think when we are very first introduced to that group, that was my
Hmm.
first quick thought. But then as they spoke, I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe they seem fine. And then they're attacked and slaughtered by another group of people, or we don't know what. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
get what you're
very,
saying, but I don't know.
yeah, yeah, very, very, very curious. So obviously, I don't think that while it'll be the last of those particular ones we see, I don't think it'll be the last of that sect or group
Right.
or cult or whatever you want to call them that we'll end up seeing. But because it just seems like that would be pointless. Why introduce this group and slaughter them if they're not important in some sort of way? I
Right.
can't imagine the story or the show would be that sloppy in that sense. So um, I fully expect them to come back within the story somehow. Um,
I would assume so.
so another thing I want to ask you about and get your opinion on is the storyline that's developing between Ellie and Dina. And that's her name, right? Because I'm not misremembering her name. Because I keep saying Dina, and I'm hoping
I
that's
am
right.
I am notoriously terrible about character names. I mean, I'm terrible at people's names in general, but character names, I can watch an entire movie and fully enjoy it and be like, what was that character's name? I have no idea. So I'm having to
Well,
look it up now. I think it is Tina.
okay,
I'm pretty sure you're right.
okay. So if I'm
Yes, it
kind
is
of
Tina.
thinking in terms. Perfect. I'm glad I got that right because I was just gonna keep saying Dina. So if it wasn't Dina, then I just would have been wrong. But where are you at in terms of their relationship with this kind of budding romantic relationship between these two characters? Do you well, I'll just ask that question, like, how do you feel about it? Where do you what are you thinking about it? Where do you think it's going?
I don't know. Uh, I mean, it seems like it's very much laying the groundwork for, a more romantic relationship than we've seen so far. Um, but I don't know. This show, I think it does a good job of adding a more nuance to our characters than maybe we expect. So I
Hmm.
feel like it could go anywhere, you
Yeah.
know? And that's the good thing about this show. It's unpredictable. So that's what I like about it. Even though it seems like, oh, these two really like each other, and even though in this episode, Dina, for example, like, explicitly calls Ellie gay, but herself straight, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Still, though, I mean, it seems like the show is really pointing us, the viewer, in the direction of, oh, they really like each other, and this is going to go somewhere. But then I have to go, but is it? Or is it going to
Hmm.
get ugly? Is it going to get crazy? I don't know.
I feel like for me, it's not quite working, and I don't know why.
Hmm.
It's not like the actresses aren't great at what they're doing. It's just something about it doesn't feel organic.
Like there's
It
not a
feels,
chemistry there.
yeah, yeah. And it's the
I
weirdest
get that.
thing because I feel like the show is so smart in so many ways, and like you said, can be unpredictable in a lot of different ways. And this feels like, on the surface, again, me not knowing anything about what's coming ahead, but on the surface it feels very predictable and cliche that these two characters will get together. And I would be okay with that. I'm not saying that that's not a something that I wouldn't welcome. It's just that it's the chemistry thing. It doesn't feel organic enough to me that makes it work in a way that I buy and it can accept because of that. If it was feeling a little bit more organic to me and more kind of like, okay, I get it that the chemistry between them is so palpable, on screen chemistry, that you can't wait to see these two get together, that I would be all in. But because there seems to be a little something off between the chemistry, then I haven't quite bought into the idea that these two could get together, if that is the plan. So I'm kind of like, when those scenes come up and they start talking like about their stuff, how they were in the tent, to me, I'm kind of watching it and I'm just hoping to buy into it. And I still, at this point, have not yet. And maybe that's how other people are feeling. I actually don't know how they're feeling about it and whether they want these two characters to get together or not. But at this point, I'm kind of just still hoping that they can give me more, give me something that really clicks for the two of them, to where I'm like, okay, now I'm rooting for these two to get together, to be more of a couple. But right now it's just not quite working for me.
Right. I mean, at the same time, the show, as it's from what it's given us so far, I mean, it does kind of seem to paint a picture at this. I'm trying to figure out how to put this in the words, so bear with me. That Dina, like, obviously likes her to a certain level, but I mean, at least the way she explicitly talks in the tent, like, I don't know, she's not overbearingly making it clear, like, oh, I'm also into you, Ellie. So you could also go, well, at the party, they were, um, apparently Dina was high and Ellie was drunk. I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm just curious to see where it goes from here, but it's such I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It just feels to me like they that's where we're heading, to having them get together, which it makes sense. I mean, they haven't really shown any other possibilities, and I doubt that they would just keep this platonic relationship. They could, who knows? I mean, they could, but it doesn't feel like that's where they're at with it now. And
Right.
of course, that's how they're presenting it. It could be just that they come to a realization in a couple episodes that maybe they're better off as friends or something. I don't know, but
I don't know.
yeah, to me, it's like that they're driving down a path in which the two of these characters are supposed to be together.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah. Now I know, and I don't know specifics of it, but do you understand, or do you have the understanding that in the game it would be Jesse, not Jesse, Joel's brother, Tommy, that would be with Ellie on this journey and not Dina?
I have not heard anything regarding that.
Okay. I think that's what I heard, that that's the case, from the difference between the game and the show, is that he's with her, not Dina.
That seems like a pretty
And
major change.
yeah, yeah. And I'm curious as to, I don't know. One, I don't know if that's true. But two, I don't know if it is true how people feel about that change. If there's like, obviously, there's a specific show reason as to why they made that change, but I don't know in terms of how that affects the game, or not the game, because the game is what it is, but how that would affect the show, a difference in that way, based on two different characters being with her as opposed to how it was in the game, or Tommy not being with her as opposed to how he was with her in the game. So
Hmm.
I'm curious what that decision was, and whether or not it's specific to a reason. And so far, what the show has shown me, when you have the person that is the person who had made the games, as well as someone like Craig Mazin also running it, they don't do anything um, just for the sake of just making a change. That there's a specific reasoning behind the decisions that they make when they deviate from the game. So I'm very curious as to what that decision was. And I always watch the after shows thing where they talk about the episode.
Yeah.
And I didn't see them mention anything about that change. And so again, that makes me wonder if that is a change, or if it is a change, why they didn't address it. And maybe they will in future episodes or something. But I just thought that that was an interesting change, if again, that is a change from the game.
It would seem like something that in that after behind the scenes bit, they would have briefly pointed out, but maybe not. I'm curious to hear now, though. I hadn't heard that, but I also haven't done a lot of digging yet
Yeah.
or listening to like other recap podcasts, which sometimes I do. And I haven't
Hmm.
really, I haven't delved into that yet. So, well, I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, I like listening to other podcasts that can give a good comparison of what's different from the game to the show,
Hmm.
as they're able to keep it within the context of the episode, as opposed to future casting as what's like, oh, well, this wasn't in this part, and that would be weird because this is supposed to happen. Well, don't tell me what's supposed to happen. Just tell me, like,
Right.
what's the difference in
Right.
terms of, okay, this wasn't there and this was there. But yeah, so some of them do it pretty well, and some of them are not quite as good at it, I'll say.
No, like there's one in particular show I listen to, and I know they're doing bonus episodes where on the
Hmm.
bonus episodes is where they cover this stuff, like differences between the show and the game. But I'm still unclear on if they are spoiling stuff from the future of the game because they kind of
Right.
paint it like, oh, the bonus episodes are for people who played the game. Well, I'm like, well, I didn't play the game and I don't want to hear spoilers for
Mm,
the future of the game. So I don't listen to the bonus episodes. And
yeah.
maybe they're safe. I don't know, but I don't even try. Like
Yeah, I wouldn't try.
I don't want to know.
No, I wouldn't want to know either, just because of, like you said, if they're saying it's spoilers for anyone, or it's not spoilers for anyone who's played the game, but then you're just kind of like, well, there's the potential there that you might talk beyond the episode of what the differences were, and I don't want to take that chance. So
Right.
I get it. I mean, I don't even watch what's coming up for the next episode, so that's, yeah, at the level I'm at in terms of really trying to avoid seeing anything. So I definitely don't want to hear about it.
And see, I watch those. I don't care about that.
Yeah,
That doesn't bother me.
yeah.
But
I like going in cold to them. I didn't used to. I used to always watch what's coming up next week, little blurb that they give you, sneak peek into the next episode. But I guess it's when it's shows like these, knowing that it's just a week away, and I just really kind of want to get back into it, just completely unknown to what's happening. I
mm,
think I just prefer to skip them, but not everything I skip, but certainly most things I think these days I usually skip that little uh, upcoming next week kind of little preview.
I think I went through a phase of skipping those. I want to say with Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so, and yeah, apparently our screen is black on Twitch, which I have no answers to. Everything looks hunky dory on my side. So that sucks.
Looks like it'll
uh,
be an audio only episode.
yeah, I guess so. I
Oh,
appreciate you
that's a
sticking around for
bummer.
the audio. No, we're only streaming to Twitch. Nice coffee. Yeah, I don't know. We would be putting this on YouTube, but if the screen is black, then this will not be on YouTube, and I don't know what to say about that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's frustrating.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't for Iced, I wouldn't even know, because I was like, oh, I don't see what he's saying. So let me go into my Twitch on my phone so I could at least be able to see any comments he has. And so I went on my phone and I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, why is it black? Is it just me? I can't tell. And then I even went onto my web browser on my computer to look, and it was black there. So I was like, okay, and that's when I asked you. I was like, "Are you seeing a black screen, or what are you seeing basically on yours?" Because I wasn't seeing the
Yeah.
broadcast, so don't know what that's about.
Now, yeah, we've been texting each other now in the middle of the show, trying to figure it out. And I did the same thing. I went on the app on my phone, then I went on the browser, and I'm like, yeah, it looks black. But I mean, on OBS, I have 0 drop frames. Everything looks great. So I don't
I
know.
mean, I guess it's hard to have drop frames when the whole thing is
There is no
dropped.
frames. What
Yeah.
frames?
Yeah, it makes it pretty easy.
I don't know. I mean, I messed around testing some stuff today, and I put all the settings back, and I go through OBS right now. I'm even looking at the settings right now, and I'm like, everything was fine.
Hmm.
So,
A
uh,
conundrum, a mystery for to solve. So,
yeah, I love mysteries. Yay.
oh well. So back to the episode. Actually, if you, I didn't ask you this, but how would you have voted if you were on that council in terms of going after the people in Seattle, or staying and continuing to just build the town? Where are you at with that? Because there was even the one guy who was like, he kind of had a good message in that, let's just sort of let bygones be bygones, in a sense where it's not going to do anyone any good to just go out and get revenge, because it just continues, and it never stops. And so there's that. And then there's the guy from the last week or the week before, who, I guess it was last week, that was talking bad about Ellie. No, it was first episode. So yeah, which was last week. Gosh, I'm so thrown. No, it was 2 weeks
Yep.
ago, because we're on the third episode. Okay, see, this is terrible. But anyway, um, he was like talking about her and Dina, the guy who was Joel. No, not jeez. Here I am now with the names. Forgive me, Seth. Maybe, I think maybe his name was Seth. I'm going with Seth. He was calling for action. He wanted to go after him. He said that we can't let someone come to our place and take someone and then just think that they can get away with it. So, yeah, first of all, what do you feel as far as what you would have, your decision would have been? And how do you feel about those kind of two ideologies between these two different characters' points of view?
I guess my answer, at least in terms of how I would vote, is it's hard. It's hard to justify voting to go out and seek revenge for his death. Like, what good comes from that? Like, in terms of the safety of this town that you guys have nestled in the mountains, um, like, uh, yeah, I don't see the good in, as much as it hurts to lose Joel and not, of course, depending on how close you are to him, you're going to want to seek revenge to a certain point. But, but why? Like, you're, if anything, it seems like you're just opening yourself up to, like, opening up the location of this place to other people who would then maybe find out about it, who didn't know about it. Um, and then just inviting more violence when it's unnecessary. So,
See, that's interesting you say that, because I think you just touched on something as a reason why I kind of do see why you would want to go after those guys. Even though I said earlier that I feel like now's not the time, you know where they are. Let's continue to rebuild our town and get that up and running back to 100% before even trying to attempt to go after some people. The reason why I would argue against it, and why I do think it might be a good idea, would be the fact that people do know where they are, and that would be Abby and her crew. They know that that town is there, and depending on what situation the wolves are in, like, okay, like, we know as the audience that they were in Seattle and they seem to have this big militia or whatever, but they don't know in terms of what the 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 status of those people are 3 months after this fact. They could have been doing good from where they're from in Seattle, but now their resources have been depleted. And they know that this town is there that is seemingly up and running, has electricity, has all these good things going for it. So why don't we go and raid this town? And that could be a real threat. At the very least, you would maybe think you would want to go send some reconnaissance to see if they're staying put or if they're trying to even try advance, or what their situation is like, just to see.
Right.
And I wouldn't send Ellie on that expedition, but
No.
I would have definitely sent some people to go at least look and see what's going on there.
Yeah, I get that. That's logical.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I could. That's why I guess I kind of see it from both sides. Is
Yeah.
that there is a reason to stay put, but there's also a reason to go, not necessarily for revenge, but to at least see where you stand with these people, and what's going on with them,
Right.
which essentially is going to end up being the case by having Ellie and Dina going out there for the revenge. They will come across the fact that they're well equipped right now, and I don't know what their plans are, but um, the as far as the wolves, what their plans are. But you, if they're not thinking of going to the town to raid it, them showing up and looking for revenge, whether it succeeds or not, will now give them fuel to now go to the town. So I that's why I'm kind of like, oh, I want to see how this starts to unfold, knowing that it's not just uh, Abby and her crew of whatever, how many people there were total with her. It's a lot more people now, whether it's just that they've gathered together more people from other communities and now have a stronger foothold,
Mhm.
or if they just always had more people than she revealed. I don't know, but it looks like they're more than ready to be able to get into a vicious kind of fight with another group.
Right. Well, anything else you wanted to touch on with the episode?
I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else other than just the ideas of us now getting to a point where there's going to be this confrontation. And I do like that we didn't spend, as I was talking about Andor earlier, and how we spent maybe an episode and a half with Andor on a specific planet. We didn't spend like 2 episodes with Dina and Dina and Ellie just traveling across country to get to Seattle. We got there all in one episode, so
Right.
it wasn't like we had to watch that discovery or that trek across the country for 2 episodes or three. So we got there pretty quick, and
Yeah.
that's good.
We got there very fast.
Yeah.
Um, it's like the show only shows them spend the night somewhere one night,
Hmm.
but I'm like, with the way the show is set up, it seems like it's, if you didn't know anything about where they were going, you would think, oh, it took one night and they were there. Like,
Yeah.
no, sorry, that doesn't work for
No.
me. But I mean,
No. And I think that at the very least they give you a sense that it is still a long trek, because Dina had breaks out the map at one point and shows all the stuff that they have to go through and cross through.
right,
And you know that on horseback that's not taking just one night. It's
right,
just that they just chose to show us that one night of all the traveling that they had to do.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like, and probably it was just that first night they showed us. There was probably subsequent nights that they did throughout that time before they get to Seattle. They just didn't. It wasn't worth showing it to us as the audience, because the most meaningful thing happened that first night between the two of them. So
right.
yeah, I appreciate that, the fact that they didn't make that into 2-3 episodes of them just getting to Seattle. So we're there now, and we're gonna see what happens next week, I imagine.
Agreed. Well, with that, that's going to wrap things up. I think we're going to head out and hope that our show is still salvageable. um, as always, we'd love to hear back from all of you. Thanks, first of all, for those of you watching here live on Twitch. We love having you. This show may end up being on YouTube. That remains to be seen. But you can find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Flicker Effect. We've also been throwing up some trailer reactions over there. So make sure to go check out that channel. You can also find us on Instagram and X/Twitter at Flicker_Effect as well. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.